Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive. This time we're going to be exploring change and transformation in IT,
Ooh,
which seems to be on everybody's mind these days.
it certainly is.
You want to be able to cut through all the buzzwords. You want to understand all the roles that are involved and really see how it's actually impacting companies in the real world.
Absolutely.
So the source material for this deep dive is going to be a recent article from LearnXYZ.
Oh, a great resource.
Yeah, which is a website, they're really known for kind of making these complicated topics accessible to all kinds of learners. So
Yeah.
to kind of unpack this with us today, we're going to bring in an expert who can really kind of help us navigate this intricate landscape.
Well, thanks for having me. It's a fascinating topic.
So, right off the bat, the LearnXYZ article kind of makes this distinction between change and transformation.
Yeah.
And they kind of emphasize that it's not just, semantics.
It's a very important distinction.
Yeah, and they even use a rather vivid analogy to illustrate this point.
They do.
What was it?
Well, they compare transformation to a caterpillar becoming a butterfly, a complete metamorphosis.
Mm-hmm.
But then they say change is like giving that same caterpillar a new hat.
Oh, okay.
It might look a little bit different, but fundamentally it's still a caterpillar.
Yeah, that definitely paints a picture. But, does that analogy always, hold true? Are there situations where the line between those two, between change and transformation, gets a little blurry?
That is a fantastic question. And while I think the analogy is a really helpful starting point,
Mm-hmm.
it's true that reality is often much more nuanced. So, for example, if we talk about moving your entire IT infrastructure to the cloud,
Right.
that's generally considered a transformation, right? But what if you're migrating gradually? What if you're doing it application by application?
Oh, I see.
Is each one of those individual migrations just a change, even though the end result is a transformed infrastructure? You really have to consider both the immediate actions and the long-term objective, I think.
So it sounds like the context and the overall goal
Hmm.
are really key to determining whether something is truly a change or a transformation.
I think that's a great way of putting it.
Okay.
And this distinction then is particularly relevant in IT, where the article then goes on to really differentiate between IT change and IT transformation.
And they give some concrete examples to help illustrate that, right?
You do?
What are some of the things that they use?
Well, they highlight that something like a routine software update would fall under IT change, right?
Right.
It's essential.
Yeah.
You've got to keep things running,
Uh-huh.
but it doesn't fundamentally alter how the system functions.
Okay. Whereas I'm assuming then that, moving your whole operation to the cloud, as we were talking
yeah,
about,
yeah.
that would be a prime example of IT transformation.
Absolutely. And the article emphasizes that companies need both.
Makes sense.
They need IT change and IT transformation to stay competitive. Change management ensures that everything's efficient, that it's stable.
Mm-hmm.
But transformation allows you to adapt to those evolving technologies and all those market dynamics that we see.
It makes you wonder, though, has it always been this way? The LearnXYZ article actually kind of takes us on this brief little journey through history and shows how change and transformation have been shaping societies for centuries.
For a long time, yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty wild, right?
It is really fascinating to look back and see how these forces have been in play since, as far back as the agricultural revolution.
Ah,
Think about it. That massive shift from nomadic hunter-gatherer societies to those settled agricultural communities,
right.
that was a transformative period.
Yeah.
Completely reshaped how humans lived,
Okay.
and interacted.
Absolutely. And then I guess you have the Industrial Revolution with its factories and machines.
Right.
Ushering in yet another, era of just profound transformation.
Mhm.
You see the rise of mass production,
Yeah.
urbanization, a totally new way of working.
And now here we are today
Yeah.
amidst this tech revolution,
Right.
and these digital technologies are transforming, everything.
Yeah.
From how we communicate
Yeah.
to how we conduct business, how we live our lives.
How we record podcasts.
Exactly.
And the article really drives home the point that, just like those earlier societies had to adapt to survive,
Right.
businesses today, they kind of have to embrace this transformation if they want to thrive in this rapidly changing world.
They do. Or they get left behind.
So that historical perspective, I think, provides, some valuable context.
Yeah, it does.
It highlights that, change and transformation aren't just these modern buzzwords, right?
Right.
They're really fundamental forces that have been shaping human civilization for millennia.
For a long time.
And I think recognizing that historical pattern helps us understand the urgency for businesses to adapt today. But I think often, the language that surrounds these concepts can be a bit daunting,
It can.
Like how many times have we seen, a job title that's like Manager of Change and Transformation?
Oh, yeah.
It sounds very important.
Very important, yeah. But what do they actually do?
But also kind of vague, What do they actually do?
It's not always clear.
It can sound like one person kind of wearing a lot of hats,
It can.
But thankfully, the article breaks it down for us.
Yeah.
Like the hierarchy of all these different roles involved in IT change and transformation. And it's pretty structured.
It is. It's a structure.
So it's not just, one person juggling a million different tasks.
Right.
At the very top, you've got the change and transformation manager or the director. And what are they doing?
They're setting that strategic direction.
Yeah.
They have to make sure everything aligns with, the company's overall vision.
So they're kind of like the architect of the whole change initiative.
Yeah. They are. They're laying the groundwork for that whole process.
And then under them, you've got the project managers.
Who
I'm assuming are...
They're the ones taking that vision and translating it into plans.
Okay.
They're managing the budgets. They're managing the timelines, the resources.
So they're really keeping the train on the tracks.
Exactly, making sure everything moves smoothly.
Right, but I'm assuming that transformation involves more than just like the project management piece, right?
It does.
I feel like the human element has got to be really crucial too.
Oh, absolutely. And that's where these change management experts come in.
Okay.
Their focus is on the people side of change.
Okay.
They're helping employees navigate the transition.
Yeah.
They're addressing their concerns, helping them adapt to all these new ways of working.
So they're kind of like the human interface then between the technical aspects of all this transformation.
They are.
And the individuals who are actually being impacted by it.
I like that, the human interface.
And then, of course, you've got like the technical architects.
Of course, you can't forget about them. They're the masters of the digital realm.
Right, like they're the ones actually designing and building the new systems.
They are.
Making sure that, everything's technically sound.
Right.
And it integrates effectively.
Exactly. They're the ones making sure that the technology actually works as intended and supports all of the outcomes that you want.
But then how do we make sure that all this, this amazing technical wizardry actually aligns with the company's needs and goals?
That's where those business analysts play a critical role.
Okay.
They are bridging that gap between all that technical jargon and the practical business requirements.
So they speak both languages.
They do. They analyze processes, they identify areas that can be improved, and they ensure that those technical solutions that are implemented really do address those business challenges.
So it's not just about implementing, shiny new technology for the sake of it. It's about really using technology strategically.
It is.
To solve those real problems and drive, meaningful outcomes for the business.
I couldn't have said it better myself.
So I think it's really crucial to remember here that, change and transformation in IT are rarely solo endeavors.
No, it's a team effort.
It takes this coordinated team
Absolutely.
Of skilled professionals, each of them playing this critical role in driving those successful outcomes.
They each play their part, yeah.
It's like this well-orchestrated symphony.
It is.
You've got all these different instruments coming together.
Everyone important.
To create this harmonious and impactful whole.
It's beautiful.
But it makes you wonder, what's the driving force behind all this effort?
It does.
Why are companies really putting so much emphasis on change and transformation in the first place?
Well, what's the point?
What's the payoff,
Well, that's where we really delve into the why of it all. And that's something we'll have to explore in the next part of our deep dive.
Stay tuned. All right. So we've talked about all these different roles and responsibilities involved in change and transformation in IT.
All those moving pieces.
Yeah, but let's get to the heart of the matter here.
Yeah.
Why are companies actually putting all this effort in?
Right.
What's the ultimate payoff?
Yeah, the LearnXYZ article actually digs into both the immediate and long-term benefits. And I think it's important to really understand both of those perspectives.
Yep.
From a practical standpoint, IT change management, it often leads to just increased efficiency.
Okay.
So think about, processes that are more streamlined, tasks that are automated,
Right.
less manual effort all around.
Right.
And those things translate into cost savings.
That makes sense. Yeah, if you can optimize those operations,
Right.
eliminate those inefficiencies, you're going to free up resources, you're going to improve your bottom line.
Exactly. And these operational enhancements then can actually improve customer experiences.
Okay.
Because when things run smoothly,
Sure.
customers are happy, right?
Right. So it's a win-win.
It is.
The companies save money, the customers are happier.
Exactly.
But I feel like those are kind of like the short-term gains.
They are.
Right. What about the long-term benefits of IT transformation? I mean, the article kind of hints that there's something bigger at play here.
Yeah, there is. This is where it gets really interesting because IT transformation, it's not just about those little incremental improvements.
Okay.
It's really about like positioning your business for growth and adaptability,
Okay.
in this crazy landscape that's always changing.
Yeah, because like technology is moving so fast.
Exactly. So they actually use this term future-proofing,
Okay.
which essentially means building the capacity to anticipate and respond to whatever's coming next.
Okay, future-proofing. I mean, that sounds pretty big.
It is big.
Like, what does that actually look like in practice?
Okay, well, imagine a company that has moved their entire infrastructure to the cloud, right? So they're not held back by like physical hardware.
Okay.
They've got all the scalability they could need.
Right.
They can access cutting-edge technologies. They can adapt to the market as it changes,
Yeah.
expand into new markets even.
So it's really about building that foundation.
It is.
For flexibility and innovation.
Yeah.
So you can kind of evolve as technology changes and as those customer expectations shift.
Yeah, it's about staying ahead of the curve.
Okay.
And I think that future-proofing, it's especially crucial today. The digital landscape is changing so fast.
Yeah, it's moving at like warp speed.
It really is. We've got AI, we've got machine learning, we've got Internet of Things, and all these things are rapidly changing how we do business.
Yeah. And if you haven't gone through some sort of digital transformation in your company,
you're going to have trouble.
You're going to be in trouble, right?
Yeah, companies that have undergone those transformations,
they're the ones that are equipped to use these innovations to stay competitive.
So it's like the companies that have transformed are like riding that wave.
Yeah.
And everybody else is kind of getting swept away by it.
They're drowning.
Yeah.
But it's important to remember that it's not without its challenges, you know?
Yeah.
It's a complex process.
Yeah. I mean, any kind of big organizational change like that, I'm sure comes with, certain risks and obstacles.
It does.
So what are some of the big ones? What are the things that companies really need to look out for?
Well, one of the most common is resistance.
Okay.
Resistance to change,
From within the organization.
Yeah, from within the organization.
So like people just don't want to change.
They get comfortable with what they know.
Yeah.
Even if it's not the most efficient way of doing things.
Yeah, why rock the boat, right?
Exactly. Why rock the boat? So that can be a big challenge.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense though, right? I mean, change can be scary. It can.
Especially if it's going to impact, your daily routines and all your responsibilities.
Absolutely.
So how do companies kind of overcome that resistance and actually make the transition a little bit smoother?
Well, it starts with communication.
Okay.
Clear communication from the top.
From the top.
And employees need to understand why this is happening,
Yeah.
How does this align with the company's goals? How does it benefit them?
So it's just like transparency and open dialogue are really crucial.
Absolutely. You've got to build that trust.
Yeah. And it's not just about kind of, that one-way communication.
Well, it's not.
Like companies have to actually create channels for feedback.
Yes.
Actually listen to those concerns.
And address them.
And actually, do something about it.
Yes. Make people feel heard.
Yeah. Make people feel like they're part of the process, not just...
Right. Not just subject to it.
Yeah. Subject to it.
Yeah.
So that's one challenge.
That's one, yeah.
What else do companies really need to watch out for?
Well, another challenge is making sure that the technical solutions that they're implementing, that they actually align with the business needs.
Right.
It's really easy to get swept up in the excitement of new technology,
Yeah, the shiny new toy.
Right. But if it doesn't actually solve problems or support your objectives,
And it's not very useful.
then it's not going to help.
Right.
So you've got to be strategic.
So strategic and purposeful.
Purposeful.
It's not just about chasing those shiny new objects.
It's not.
And I'm assuming this is where those business analysts that we were talking about earlier
Yes.
really come into play.
They do.
Because they're kind of bridging that gap between the technical and the business.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Their expertise is essential.
Oh, okay.
They make sure that the technology that gets implemented addresses the challenges and supports the outcomes you want.
So we've talked about the benefits, we've talked about some of the challenges, but it's important to remember that this isn't just a one-time thing, right?
Right.
Like change and transformation in IT.
It's a process.
It's ongoing, right?
It's ongoing.
It's not static.
It's not.
It requires constant adaptation, and refinement.
It does. Yeah, the article talks about the importance of continuous improvement, which I think is really key here.
What are your thoughts on that? Like, how do companies cultivate that mindset?
Well, one key aspect, I think, is fostering a culture of feedback.
Okay.
And learning.
Mm-hmm.
So create a space where employees feel comfortable sharing ideas, raising concerns, learning from both the successes and the failures.
Yeah.
I think regular retrospectives are super valuable.
Okay, so retrospectives, meaning like, kind of getting together as a team.
Yeah.
And just reflecting on what worked.
Yeah, what worked, what didn't work.
And what could be improved.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's about creating what we call a learning organization, right? Where people can, experiment and iterate.
And not be afraid to fail.
Exactly. Not be afraid to fail.
So it's really about shifting that mindset,
It is.
away from kind of a blame culture to one where, experimentation and learning are actually valued.
Exactly. You have to be willing to try new things
and
learn from those experiences.
So that's one piece of it, right? That kind of internal culture of learning and experimentation.
It is.
But I'm assuming there's also kind of an external component to this as well.
There is.
Like staying abreast of all those technological advancements.
Absolutely. You have to invest in training and development for your IT professionals.
Yeah.
Because the landscape's always changing.
Right. So it's like, you can create that perfect internal culture.
Right.
But if your people aren't up to date on the latest tools and techniques and, best practices,
it's not going to matter.
It's all for nothing, right?
Yeah, they need the skills and knowledge to navigate all this change.
And I'm assuming that's where companies are often a little bit hesitant because training and development, that takes resources.
It does. It takes time. It takes money.
And especially when budgets are tight. Mm-hmm. It's easy to see that as an area to cut.
It is, but that's where you have to highlight the return on investment.
Okay.
The ROI of training. Oh. By upskilling your workforce, you're gaining a competitive edge.
Right.
You can implement these new technologies more effectively, solve those problems more efficiently.
And ultimately just adapt faster.
You got it.
To all those changes that are happening.
Exactly. It's about staying ahead of the game.
So it's not just about keeping up with everybody else.
It's not. No.
It's really about investing in the long-term health.
Yes.
And the adaptability of the company.
You got it.
And when you kind of frame it in those terms, it makes sense.
It makes sense.
Like you're not just, throwing money at something.
Right.
You're really making a strategic investment.
It is a strategic investment.
In the future of the company.
Exactly.
Now, we talked earlier about how, IT transformation.
Yeah.
It's not just about implementing those technologies.
No, it's not.
It's really about adapting the processes.
Yes.
And even the mindsets.
Absolutely, yeah.
So I'm curious, like, what are some of those organizational and cultural shifts that really need to take place for transformation to really take hold?
Well, technology is definitely a key piece of it, but it's not the whole story.
Okay.
Organizations need to evolve.
Okay.
Their structures, their processes, their ways of thinking.
Oh, ways of thinking. Okay.
Yeah, to really harness those new technologies.
Yeah, so what does that actually look like? Like, what are some of the concrete changes that companies might need to make?
Well, one important thing is breaking down silos.
Silos, yeah.
And fostering collaboration.
Yeah, that's a word that we hear a lot, right?
We do.
Silos. So can you just explain for our listeners,
Sure.
Why are silos so bad?
Silos happen when different departments in a company, they work in isolation, right?
Okay.
So there's not a lot of communication. There's not a lot of collaboration.
So everybody's kind of doing their own thing?
Exactly.
Okay.
And that leads to inefficiencies.
Okay.
People are duplicating efforts.
Okay.
And they're not really aligned around the goals.
So if you're trying to implement, a company-wide initiative.
Right.
But everybody's kind of off in their own little corner doing their own thing.
It's not going to work.
It's not going to work, right?
No, it's not going to be as impactful.
Right.
Transformation requires a holistic approach.
Okay.
Everybody working together.
So it's about shifting from that kind of fragmented, siloed approach
It is.
to something that's more integrated,
Integrated.
more collaborative.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And another thing is empowering those employees. You know, you've got to create that culture of innovation because transformation, it can't just be a top-down thing.
Right. It can't just be the executive saying, this is what we're doing.
Exactly.
It has to come from...
It has to come from everywhere.
From everywhere.
Yeah. You need the active participation of everybody.
So it's about creating this environment where people feel like they can contribute, you know?
Yes.
That their ideas are valued, that they can experiment, that they can challenge the status quo.
Challenge the status quo.
But how do you actually create that culture?
Right.
Right.
That's the question.
Like, it's easy to talk about these things.
It is.
Empowerment, innovation.
Yeah, but how do you do it?
But putting it into practice, that's the hard part.
It is. Well, it starts with leadership.
Okay.
You know? The leaders have to set the tone.
Okay.
Create that environment where it's okay to take risks, where failure is a learning opportunity.
Right, not a punishment.
Not a punishment.
Okay.
And new ideas are welcomed.
So it's about moving away from that blame culture to something that's more, you know, growth-oriented.
Growth-oriented, exactly.
And the leaders also need to provide those resources.
Yes, the training, the support.
That people need to be successful.
Absolutely.
In this changing environment.
It's an investment in your people.
Right. And it's an investment in the future of the company.
Exactly.
And then, of course, you know, you got to celebrate those successes.
You do.
Along the way.
Absolutely.
Make people feel good.
Recognize those contributions.
About what they're doing.
Make them feel valued.
Yeah.
And that their efforts are making a difference.
So it's really about creating this positive feedback loop.
It is.
Right? Yeah. Where success kind of breeds more success.
It does.
And the organization just continues to evolve in this healthy, sustainable way.
Exactly. And that's really what IT transformation is all about, creating that agile, resilient, future-ready organization.
That can handle whatever's thrown at it.
Exactly.
This has been super insightful. I mean,
yeah. It's a great topic.
We've covered so much in this deep dive.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, from those practical benefits of change and transformation
to
all those complex organizational and cultural shifts that are needed.
It's a lot.
But I think what's really sticking with me is that realization that it's not just about technology.
It's not.
It's about people.
It's about people.
Processes and culture.
Absolutely.
It's about creating that environment where, you know, where people can innovate.
Right. Where they can collaborate.
And where learning is an ongoing thing.
Exactly. And that human element, I think it's often overlooked, you know? Yeah. People get so caught up in the technology.
The technical details.
Right. But it's the people that make it happen.
Yeah. And I think that's what makes change and transformation so challenging.
It is.
But also so rewarding.
It is, yeah, because you're pushing those boundaries, you're embracing those new ideas, you're constantly evolving.
We're staying ahead. And I think in a world that's changing as fast as ours.
Absolutely.
That ability to adapt, to transform.
It's more valuable than ever.
I feel like we've really journeyed through like this whole ecosystem of change and transformation in IT.
The whole thing.
From that like initial spark of an idea to like this whole web of roles and processes and cultural shifts.
All the pieces.
Yeah. Make it all happen.
So hopefully our listeners are feeling a little more equipped now.
Yeah.
To not just understand it.
Right.
But actually participate.
Yeah, like go out and make those changes.
They happen.
In their own organizations.
Absolutely.
So let's kind of recap here.
Yeah, let's crystallize those takeaways.
Yeah, what are the big things that we want people to walk away with from this whole deep dive?
Okay, well, we started with that distinction between change and transformation. Yeah. It's not just, you know, playing with words.
Right. It's a real thing.
It's a real thing. Change is incremental. Transformation is a fundamental shift, right?
Yeah, like that caterpillar.
They're a butterfly, yeah.
Turning into a butterfly.
Exactly.
And then we kind of explored how that plays out specifically in IT.
We did, yeah. We talked about those routine software updates.
Right.
That's change.
Change.
Whereas moving everything to the cloud, that's transformation.
That's a big one.
It is a big one.
And then we dug into, like, the why.
The why, yeah.
You know, why are we doing all of this?
Right. What's the point?
And we found, you know, kind of a mix of benefits there.
We did, yeah, both immediate and long-term.
Like cost savings.
Efficiency.
But then also, you know, that future-proofing aspect.
Future-proofing, yeah, that's the long game.
That we talked about.
Right, setting yourself up for success down the road.
And then, of course, we talked about all the people involved.
Oh, yeah, all those different roles.
You know, it's not just one person doing this.
It's a team effort.
It's a whole team.
Visionary leaders, project managers,
change experts,
technical architects,
business analysts,
all working together.
Yeah, and we can't forget about our quality assurance folks.
Oh yeah, they're important.
Making sure that everything actually works.
Exactly, they're the unsung heroes, making sure those systems are solid.
But we also talked about the challenges, right?
The challenges, yeah, those are real.
Resistance to change.
Yeah, people don't always like change.
That disconnect that can sometimes happen between,
right,
the technical solutions and what the business actually needs.
Right, you got to make sure it's aligned.
And then just that need for continuous improvement.
Constant adaptation.
Yeah.
Always evolving.
But we also explored some strategies.
We did.
For dealing with those challenges.
Right, communication is key.
Open dialogue, creating that culture of feedback and of learning.
And having the right leadership.
Right, leaders that empower and inspire.
Absolutely.
Because it's really not just about, the technology. It's about
people.
Yeah, the people.
The culture, the mindset.
Creating that environment where innovation can thrive.
Where collaboration can flourish.
And where learning is just an ongoing process.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
And I think what really stuck with me through this whole conversation is that realization that it's not just about, the technology. Right. It's about the human side of things.
It's about the people. Yeah. And that's often the hardest part.
Right.
Getting that right.
But I think that's what makes it so challenging and so rewarding at the same time.
Absolutely, because when you get it right, it's amazing what you can achieve.
So before we wrap up here, I want to leave our listeners with a little something to think about.
Okay, a little homework assignment.
Yeah, so we've talked a lot about how, businesses need to adapt and transform to really thrive.
Stay competitive.
But what about entire industries?
Oh, interesting.
What industry do you think is the most resistant to change right now?
That is a great question.
And why?
Yeah, I think that's something for everyone to ponder.
Yeah, take that one home with you, folks.
It's a big question.
But that brings us to the end of our deep dive into change and transformation in IT.
I hope you enjoyed it.
We hope you walked away with, not just a better understanding of the concepts, but also a sense of,
empowerment.
Empowerment. Like you can go out and be a part of this.
You could be the change you want to see in the world.
Be the change. That's good. I like that.
All right. Thanks for having me.
And we'll see you next time for another deep dive.